Welcome to the Row One Seat One podcast. This is a pineapple mango small batch cider from the 1911 Beacon Skiff Brewery. Hold on, becoming a thing. And that weird eye staring into the screen is one of my favorite people in wrestling. Um, the ugliest duckling. Are you the ugliest? Well, or maybe the
Is,
prettiest duckling. I'm
is
not
this thing
sure.
on? Hello?
It is on, yes sir. We're
Who,
ready to
who,
rock,
who that? Who that? Who there? Hello?
man. I'm on with Rob Killjoy. Hey Rob.
Hi, I'm Rob Killjoy. Quack, quack. And yes, I am the ugliest of the ducklings. You've seen the other ducklings. I've got it all here, and I've got an ugly personality too. So,
I
I
love
mean,
your personality,
well, I
but
mean, you're an ugly personality lover. So,
it's very truthful. Very, my dating history shows that. Um, but so no, Rob is Rob's a real favorite in the southeast here. He's a Carolina boy, and Rob, you're about to hit your 20th year in wrestling, right?
that's very true. Yep, and just about less than 3 weeks, I will have been doing this 20 years. That is more than half my life. I'm an old grouchy duck man.
It's I mean you've done it and seen it and been around all of it over the last 20 years. I guess my first question would be, what's the primary thing that's different now than it was 20 years ago in the world of independent wrestling?
Well, it's a lot more accessible. There's a lot more to do. And I'll go out and say this: a lot of the veterans now are better, and I don't just mean like say better wrestlers they are, but just better people in general. Uh, for example, like it still feels weird. I know I've been wrestling 20 years now, but I still feel weird calling myself a vet. But uh, I'm actually trying to help. I actually care about wrestling. I'm not just like, hey, go out there, grab a headlock, and don't break a sweat, and steal that promoter's money, and all these fans are stupid marks for believing in this. It's like, no, I grew up a fan and like love wrestling. No, but I'm gonna mock somebody else for loving wrestling. That makes sense, right?
No,
Uh,
completely. And you're seen very much as a leader in the locker room, and someone who's a guiding hand. And so what you're telling me is when you came in 20 years ago, it was very much that adversarial relationship with the.
a lot, yeah, with a lot of people, and I'm not saying it was 100% that way, but and there's still some of those older guys from then who are still around now who are still going by that same bullshit mentality where it's hard to explain, but it's just I've never been a frat guy or somebody who just went along with the flow or went like, oh, well, this is popular, so this is what I like, or I want somebody to like me, so that will influence my decisions.
Mhm.
So I've just never enjoyed that, like the hazing or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for a good rib or like say funny prank, but hey, shaving somebody's head while they're asleep or something, that's not funny.
Have you
You
seen
know,
that?
no, not necessarily, but I've heard
Okay.
stories about it. I've seen like similar stuff, like, but okay, drawing on somebody's face with a marker when they're passed out, sure, that's fun because like it washes off. But
Mhm.
I've seen stuff like destroying somebody's property or just something like that. No, that's not funny. Now we're fighting. But if I like, hey, if I hide one of your boots or tape your gear to the ceiling, which I've done before, that's funny because it's harmless. But a lot of times it's just these. You want to be mean and disguise it as a joke is what a lot of people do. They
Sure.
want to bully, but don't want the consequences when somebody doesn't want to be bullied.
So
And
the
that's
bullying
and there's still some
mentality
of the
has left a little bit.
right. And there's still like some of those around, but it's decreasing a lot. And I think that's great because wrestling's supposed to be fun. Don't forget to love wrestling. And all these old motherfuckers, not all of them, but a lot of these old motherfuckers who just I wish I got paid half as much as they do to hate wrestling. I'm on some of these shows and they act miserable to be there. And it's like, well, please leave. You're literally like having a boring match and trying to hot dog and just steal from this promoter and not do anything, do the least amount possible, which I understand that this is getting the most emotion you can
Mhm.
by doing the least. But that doesn't mean we're not going to break a sweat. It doesn't mean not going to work hard. It doesn't mean that you cheat the fans who paid their money to see you. Their attention and their money are worth something. So it just always bothers me. It always has when somebody just treats it like they're above wrestling. Well, that's cool. Then go away. I'll wrestle your match. Take your pay. I like wrestling. I've never had the issue of burning out. I've never wanted to quit. I don't take weekends off. I've never been, oh, I'm glad to be off this weekend. That's never happened. Even during the pandemic, I was off 6 weeks and that's it. And then I started finding middle of nowhere shows in Tennessee, 6 hours from me, cutting up a deal and then going there and then making it up on merch on the back end. It's just, I never wanted to stop. I don't get burnout. At no point am I just like, oh man, I'm so happy I'm not wrestling this weekend.
So
That's a crazy concept to me.
this is your safe place then. This is
Yeah.
your happy
Wrestling
place.
makes me happy. Wrestling makes me happy. So I'm a big fan of was it Bukowski said, find what you love and let it kill you. That's me.
Tell me about Rob as a young duckling.
Mhm. Well,
What made you fall in love with this?
you know how a lot of people have that first memory of wrestling? I don't have that. I've just always loved wrestling and I just always wanted to be a part of it. And it's just all I've ever wanted to do. And even as a child, like my dad would be on the couch, probably doing something illegal with one of his friends, and I would be jumping off of the back of the couch and drop kicking his friend in the back. And my dad told me he's like, you would have to hurt you to stop you because I just wouldn't stop. And I'm just saying that I've got a pretty good springboard drop kick now. So I'm just saying it
Yeah,
paid off.
it's
How
been
do you get to
honed for
Carnegie
years.
Hall?
Yeah,
How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, right? So, but yeah, so I
um,
just was obsessed with wrestling. I loved watching TV. I just love TV. I still do. But it's like I just loved watching, like, I'd watch wrestling and comedy stuff. I'd watch Saturday Night Live and just whatever. That's why I'm so goofy and stupid now. But, but I loved watching cartoons and just, but if wrestling was on, I was glued to the television. Once I
okay.
got a little older, I would go rent the old WrestleManias from the video store whenever we go to the video store, stuff like that. Just whatever I could do. It was always just same now. Everything is geared towards wrestling.
Yeah, that's a similar story for a lot of us. Is that it just became an obsession from the jump, and then
It's the
it was
coolest.
your life.
Wrestling's
It's
like
the
the best
coolest thing.
thing.
It's the coolest thing in the world, man. That's what people don't understand. It is so cool. And if you don't think it's cool, I don't know if I want to fuck with you. Like, 'cause it's my favorite
It's
thing.
like you're allowed to feel that way. You're allowed to be wrong. It's fine.
You're 100% allowed to
Yeah,
be
it's like
wrong. So you got in half your life ago and decided to train. Was this a natural, like this was always going to happen thing, or was it just a light switch flipped and then you said, I'm going to do this?
well, okay. So if you'll indulge me for a second, this is a bit of a long story. All right. Well, when I was 13, I started backyard wrestling. I met a couple of friends, one of whom was dating my sister at the time. And I started backyard wrestling because he was a big wrestling fan too. I remember he would bring over videotapes of the pay per views that had just happened, like this, like in 2000. And I was like, oh man, No Mercy. Oh, let's watch that. Oh shit. Oh, Unforgiven. Oh man, Taz and Ravens doing what? Just crazy random stuff. Um, but we started backyard wrestling, and I would just be doing that pretty much every weekend. Like I would backyard wrestle, and I did stupid stuff. It was real dumb shit. Like say, like I don't even want to go into it, but it wasn't good. Obviously, like I look back on now, like oh, it wasn't good. But I taught myself a lot by doing that. So I was a senior in high school, and we had to do a senior project, which counted as like most of our grade for that year.
Hmm.
Well, all of my projects were always on wrestling or heavy metal music if they wouldn't allow me to do it on wrestling. But usually it was wrestling.
We had very similar youth. Yeah.
Yes. So it was just, well, you write what you know, right?
Hmm.
You don't have to, I don't have to bullshit you and try to make a word count. If I'm talking about wrestling, I'm going to have to cut it down for you. I'm going to give you too much information. So, and again, I've just been obsessed my whole life, which as an aside, it always trips me out. Like a lot of these people who I still, 20 years in, I still wrestle these people who have not been trained correctly all the time, or I swear it's like you've never watched wrestling, or they'll be like, oh, I just don't watch wrestling. And that's crazy. I mean, I understand if you don't like the current product and stuff, but to me, if you're trying to get a job, you should be up to date. But it's very odd to me when you don't watch any kind of wrestling, you don't YouTube old wrestling or anything. why do you do this? This
Trying
is
to get into
you're
this. Yeah.
literally you are literally breaking your body for this. Why would you not be obsessed with this? You know, because don't get me wrong, wrestling's fun. Wrestling's the best. Breaking my body is not. So if I didn't love it, why would I put up with the pain? Why would I walk the way I do? I know you can't tell once I come out of the curtain and the red light's on, but you can ask my wife. I just limp around the house all day.
Oh, I've seen you. Yeah,
Yeah,
you've been through it, man. You've
yeah,
absolutely been through it. Yeah.
yeah. I've got some city miles on me.
Mhm.
So, well, we're a senior project. I had to have a mentor, which was an expert in that field. Well, my aunt, with whom I was living at the time, she worked at the hospital. And she knew somebody there who knew somebody who used to be a wrestler. So I got put in contact with him. His name was Jerry McNeil. He's no longer with us,
Mhm.
but his name was Jerry McNeil. He used to wrestle as Jammin' Jerry with his partner Rockin' Robbie at ACW in like the Seagrove, North Carolina area, like that area. You know
That's the
that
most independent wrestling names I've ever
that
heard.
is
Jim
some
and
not
Jerry and
that
Rockin' Robbie. Yeah,
that is
I'm all
some
in.
that's some 90s stuff, right?
Where do I buy a ticket?
Exactly. And he was a great dude to me. You know, he was,
Mhm.
you treated me better than they should have, honestly. But I remember the first time I ever met him. He was supposed to meet up with me at my house, and I was there alone, like say at my aunt's house, and like he just wasn't coming by. He was late. Well, obviously he shows up and rings the doorbell when I'm on the toilet. So I've got to like try to hurry up and try to get out there before he leaves. You know, not that that's a long story or has a big ending, but I made it out there and met him. But it was just like, oh, of course, that's when. Uh, well, it was me and my friend at the time who he trained and wrestled for a while under the name of Sean Mayhem.
Mhm.
Um, well, he was like my best friend at the time, my best friend Ricky. We were growing up, we would backyard wrestle a lot together. Well, we started training. Jerry took us to a show. It was an old CWF show in Burlington. Yep. First time
Very
I ever
cool.
got in a ring. And I got in there. I remember Kamikaze Kid was there, who's still kind of around right now.
Guy's a great guy.
Yeah, yeah. I love
Mhm.
Kamikaze Kid. And I'll never forget this. Gemini Kid, or Jeff.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
They were around. They were in there. They gave me some tips. They're like, well, show us what you could do. And obviously, we just start running spots because we're fucking young backyard wrestlers, kids. I'm 17 years old. Yeah. Well, they taught us a couple things. Like, so we trained that once, you know, and then a couple weeks later, I had my first match. I trained that one time. And then the day of my match, we got in the ring a little bit beforehand. And that was my training. And then I had my first match. And I was wearing like jean shorts, tennis shoes, stuff. And that was like shitty, a Nirvana t shirt. But had my long hair, no facial hair. You know, I was a real young kid.
Baby Rob.
Uh,
Yeah.
yep, baby Rob, the little baby duckling. And it was the spots and stuff like that. It wasn't a bad match.
Okay.
Like it was a 6-man tag. It was myself, it was Mad Trucker Gary Stevens, and one of my trainers, Red Hot Tim Blaze. Now I was trained by Red Hot Tim Blaze and Scrapyard Dog. Scrapyard Dog is no longer with us either. He
Mhm.
passed away a couple years ago. But it was against my friend Sean Mayhem, uh Jay Money, and the Mad Trucker Gary Stevens.
These are incredible
And
names.
right, yeah. So
Incredible names.
just
Just
yeah,
so
this
good.
very, very, very North Carolina indie. Yeah. But it was a lot of fun. And you could tell like my fundamentals weren't there, like just by the way I took the arm or was holding this hold. It wasn't like I'm completely clueless, but it's like, okay, you could tell that I'm inexperienced for that. But I won the match with my finish, the Joy Driller, which I didn't call that at the time. It was a much worse name then. Now I pay respect to the Briscoes. Uh, but I hit that clean, like say, went over with my finish, and you could just tell like at the end of that match, my reaction, I was like, that was the closest I've ever been to being happy right there. It was the best. And I watched that match so many times. And then I started wrestling. Like they started running a show. Sorry, they being Jerry McNeil, Jim and Jerry, and Red Hot Tim Blaze. They ended up renting this warehouse that was about 7 minutes from where I lived. And they'd come by and pick me up. And they had this ring that was set up in there, that they set up in there. And it was this bad ring where to get through a training session, you'd have to rebuild the ring a couple times. So it wasn't good.
I've heard of those. Yes.
Yes, but I started training and then just wrestling, and I was also wrestling under a mask. And this is terrible. I understand that this does not fly now. This is 2004 when this happened, but I was wrestling under a mask as Jose Sanchez, and I was
No
also
judgment.
wrestling. Right, of course. I had the sombrero, the cape, and everything.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. I think one time I came out with the Speedy Gonzalez fucking plush doll.
Jesus
Again,
Christ.
it's 2004. I'm a 17-year-old kid. I'm just
Different
doing
time.
what I'm told, but
Different time. You're doing what you're
right.
told. You're a
But
trainee.
I
You're
but
put
I
to
was
work.
wrestling under mask, and I was also wrestling as myself. So I was doing like 2 matches per show and just getting double experience and just trying to get better. And whenever
And
we
they
were
double paid
training,
you, right?
huh?
They double paid you, right?
Oh no. But I never had to pay for my training. I worked it off for them. So I
Oh,
never had an issue with this. Like I would just go around, help them flyer. I'd come to the building and help taper the wall, put the black uh uh what's the word, cloth and stuff up on the walls, so we get it ready, show ready, help with the just do whatever was needed. Um,
now
but
I'm gonna
again, I
stop
would
you
have
there
done
for
all
a
that for free.
second
What's that?
because you're telling me about your experience. Like you were learning all parts of the business while you were going through this. You were learning to tape up the walls. You're learning to flyer. You're learning to put up the ring. All that sort of stuff. How important do you think for a young wrestler who might be listening to this when they're getting into it? Oh, I'm just gonna wrestle, but then their trainer or someone will say, "Hey, can you help with A, B, and C to make the show go?" As opposed to just hopping in the ring. Do you think learning all the other aspects and everything that goes into a show is just as important?
Oh, I absolutely do. And I also think that that shouldn't even be a question. I think that if you're obsessed enough with this, you just want to be around it. You want to help however you can. None of this was, oh God, I got to go flyer with this. Oh no, I get to go be in a car and learn from them and like listen to them and like, you know, uh, I don't want to go into everything we did together, but like, I would go hang out with them and learn just about wrestling and just hear stories and just
Mhm.
laugh and just learn to be a man also, like, because again, I'm a 17-year-old kid, so they're like, I'm just learning how to be a dude also around these
It's
people.
that
So
osmosis thing. You're learning through,
but yeah, just osmosis.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm learning the business, I'm learning about life, I'm just learning. It was never, oh man, we have to go do this. I was like, I can't wait to get there just so I could be in the presence of a wrestling ring. And I understand that's unrealistic to ask others to be as obsessed with it as I am and to devote their life like I have.
Mhm.
But you have to have a portion of that, I feel. Because again, how much are you willing to sell your body for?
Makes
Like
sense.
this, but oh, excuse me. But I wasn't getting paid for it, but I was being trained. It never crossed my mind. 6 months in, I got paid $20 for the first time after I had my first ladder match.
Incredible. $20 for a ladder match. Can't beat
Oh,
it.
yeah, absolutely. It was, my partner, Sean Mayhem, who I had turned against a few months earlier, so we had a little storyline, you know, uh, and then, we got I was bleeding in this ladder match, everything, and then they handed me $20, and I was like, I was yeah, it was amazing. It was a great feeling, and I just always liked wrestling. And see, a lot of stuff I could already bump but take moves, and like nobody ever taught me how to take destroyers or reverse
Yeah.
ranas or anything like that. I already had that down for backyard wrestling. So I was able to do all that, but I needed to learn my fundamentals. I needed to learn my psychology. I needed to learn my footwork. I needed to learn just how to get better. But even when we were training, they're like, okay, take a break. I'm in there running the ropes and bumping. I could not get enough.
You just want to be in that ring.
Right. Oh, I could,
Yeah.
yeah, you could not get me out of it.
Now, y- did you start just in around North Carolina, or because you're one of the people I know who travels the most during the pandemic, or anytime like you are always traveling somewhere. You're always on the road. Um, was that instilled at you from a very young age, or did it take you a hot minute to say, you know what, I'm going to venture out of my little haven in North Carolina here and see what's out there?
You know, being 17, not having a car, not having a license, anything like that, it's a little difficult. But I was trained in a very cut and dry way, and this is not a knock on my trainers at all. This is not bashing them.
Mhm.
I was trained in a very cut and dry way. Like my trainer, Scrapyard Dog, before he passed, he would tell people I trained him as much as he trained me because he would train me in a very cut and dry way, and like this is how you take the arm. This is how you do a headlock. This is why we do this. This is how you do this. But I was so obsessed with wrestling and watched as much of it as I could. I was like, well, couldn't you also take the arm like this and also like this and also do it like this? And so he's learning stuff from me too, but he's teaching me the more important stuff. But I was never taught how to travel. I was
Mhm.
never taught how to make money. I was
That's a
never taught
skill.
how to, yeah, I was never taught how to get booked. I was never taught these things. I didn't realize this. Eventually, I just learned it by doing. And now I try to give that back. I try to teach those things because, and I always preface it with saying, hey, I was never taught this stuff. This is just stuff that I figured out. So I know that it works for me. So don't be afraid to try this. Or hey, this is how I go about getting booked. I stay booked up. It's not because people are always hitting me up. I do get bookings by people hitting me up, but no, I stay on it. I work at it. Yeah, that's how I keep my schedule full because I cast a wide net. I still message people. I still get left on red 20 years in. I still get ignored by people that I've wrestled for before who allegedly love me. You know what I'm saying? But it's just you never know what you're going to get. So
But the
when you set
networking thing, the traveling thing, the getting yourself out there thing, from a lot of people I talk to, is just as important, if not more so, than what you're doing in the ring in a lot
It
of cases.
absolutely is. It absolutely is. Like just I've been booked off of how professional my messages were before. I've literally had a promoter tell me that, which is crazy. But I just wasn't, hey, this is me. Here's my rate. Book me for this date. No, it's like again, you gotta give a little to get a little.
Mhm.
You gotta. This is what I always tell people. We're trying to trick the promoters into giving us more money than they're willing to give us. They are trying to trick us into coming in for less than we need. So we need to find that happy middle ground to where both of us can live with it because neither of us are getting what we deserve. I feel
Sounds,
you're
very
not gonna pay
capital.
me enough.
Sounds
You're
very
not gonna pay me
capitalism.
enough. Huh?
Yeah, sounds very much like capitalism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah,
It's exactly what this is. And I'm not a fan of that, but that's a whole different podcast.
yeah. We'll get
Um,
into that at some other time. But it sounds, it's and knowing your worth and knowing your value, but also working for rate and distance, and I hear so many people talk about good reps too.
well,
Um,
there's various factors to it. A lot
mhm.
of people, well, I'm not leaving my house for less than this. All right, well, I guess you'll stay home. But if I could, okay, if I could make this loop of these shows where they're all kind of close together, crumbs make crumb cake. So if I need to cut a little deal here because I'm getting my rate at this one, but then I can make it up on merch and then I get this other one. But they couldn't pay me like say my rate, but I was able to get one of my trainees who rode with me on the show, you know what I'm saying, on there and get him a rep and get him some experience and get him you know, even if it's 20, $30. So, you know what I'm saying? There's other factors than just
Mhm.
not pay me my money. It's like, well, what did you do to earn that money? Again, we're working together. This could be easier than it's made out to be sometimes.
Tell me about the genesis of the Ducks, the Ugly Ducklings. You are one of the more famous, more popular tag team groups on independent wrestling in the last 10, 15 years. As the Ugly Ducklings, you are a founding member. And what was the genesis of that? How did that come together?
Man, I got very lucky. So Lance Lude, I originally met when he was Ultra Dragon. This is back in February of 2005 when I was just a few months in, and I didn't realize this till years later. But we were in this 8-man tag or something, and again, it was in like Seagrove, North Carolina, and we were the only two in there who actually wanted to like do some cool stuff. We got like a crowd of like 1,000 people. It was like in like Seagrove Elementary School. It was like this big show they did every year. My very first independent show that I ever went to, because I didn't know there was independent wrestling. I didn't go to a bunch of shows as a kid. I've literally in my life been to one Raw. I've been to one SmackDown. I've been to an NXT live event. I've done extra work for AEW and stuff. But that's literally it. And this is all after, like, this is all in my adult life. Would
Everything
never
else
went
you
to,
work, yeah.
yeah, like I never went to shows as a kid or anything like that. The first time, one of my backyard wrestling friends, like a little group of us, he told me about this show. So we went, and it was the most fun I ever had in my life at that point. This was in February of 2004. The next year, February of 2005, I was on that show.
For
Right.
that,
And I
yeah.
think that's cool.
Mm.
And And Lance Lude was also on that show. He was on the opposite end of me, but he was Ultra Dragon. And I remember it because he called this move, and I was the one who knew what the move was. I was like, oh, yeah, this move. Yeah, yeah, I got you. So I took that, whatever. Years later, I was on the first few WrestleCades. I can't remember if it was the second or third one, but I had been like, say, trying to get my foot in the door at PWX at that point. This is 2015. It might have been 2014 since it was WrestleCade, but I met Lance Lude. I had seen him on PWX stuff. I was like, oh, hey, man, blah, blah, blah. Hello, Rob. He goes, you know me, right? I go, what's that? And then he explained that he used to be Ultra Dragon. And I was like, oh, shit, no, I remember this. And which is funny because the years that we teamed together, I seen that happen to him hundreds of times. Everybody came up just, oh, hey, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wait, oh, you're in. Oh, I didn't know you were. Yeah, so it's just hilarious.
Ultra Dragon's a killer name, by the way.
Yeah. But but anyways, so I finally got my foot in the door at PWX. My first match was September 4th, 2015 on their first pure show before the very first X16 tournament. And we were in like a 4-way, and it was like Lance Lude was in it. And we just had good chemistry. We just, all worked together well. Well, they ended up like we did so well. They're like, hey, we're going to create something called the juniors division, and you guys are going to be the reps, the representatives of it. So we're going to do a juniors division with you guys as the faces of it. Okay, cool. That works for me. That because I've been trying to get at PWX for a while, and it's when I was starting to find myself like my work was there. Like every 3 years or so, I feel like okay, I'm starting to get this. And then like 3 years later, I'm like, okay, I didn't know shit then, but okay, I'm starting to get this now. And then 3 years later, I'm like, okay, I'm traveling. Okay, I'm doing okay. It is like it just seems like a cycle.
It builds on itself too. Yeah.
Right. But I feel like my work was getting there, but I still didn't really have a character. I would just come out like yell that I'm Rob Killjoy, just because I was on all these little shit shows where the announcer, even good shows, where they do the thing where the announcer announces your whole announcement before your music even hits.
Yeah.
So by the time you actually come out, people have forgotten who you are. Or they do that thing where the microphone's all muffled and the sound system sucks. Or just whatever, and they can't hear that, or the announcer just sucks and is getting it all wrong and isn't doing a good job. So I was just like, well, I'll just yell my name at them, so at least they won't forget who I am.
That was your character. I'm Rob Killjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where that comes from. But I was still just kind of generic, for lack of a better term. Yep. Like my wrestling had personality, but you couldn't like elevator pitch me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we were in the juniors division. PWX ended up teaming us up against the Revolt, Caleb Conley and Zane Riley, on their December show that year or whatever. Well, me and Lance enjoyed teaming together, and we were like, oh, hey, did you feel that too? Well, maybe we should kind of start doing something. That was cool. And then I just put it out on the internet because there was a picture of us together, and I called us the Ugly Ducklings because I thought it was funny. I just thought it was funny. I was like, well, nobody's ever said that before. I was like, yeah, the Ugly Ducklings are the new Steiner brothers or some dumb shit like that. Just something stupid. And the next show, we weren't booked, but the show after that, we had a trios match. And Steve Crino was there. He's like, hey, my son Colby's going to team with you guys. I had met Colby like a couple times before that, but that's just in passing. And I was like, okay, cool. Absolutely. Yeah, that's dope. And we all just like had just good chemistry together. Like we all just enjoyed playing off each other in the match. Like we're putting heat on like Ian Maxwell or something. We're just having fun. And it's like, okay, this is cool. And then the next month we were all in a 6-way ladder match, but we kind of decided to work together in the match. And the crowd started quacking at us because I had put out the Ugly Ducklings, but that didn't even occur to me.
It would be anything. Yeah.
Right. It was just a funny name. And then they start quacking at us, and I'm like, oh shit, we could just be ducks. It's like, oh, that's so easy. It's like, so it just got super lucky. And then Lance had like so many ideas. Like he's like, hey, what about from Ponds Unknown? I was like, oh, that's genius. And he had the idea for the masks and stuff. Like Lance was a big on the creative side. Like I did the matches, he did the gimmick stuff a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? So he was very helpful, and it just kind of grew and evolved from there. And then we just just got we workshopped it, we honed it, and we just got better and better. And then we had our act down. And I think we had something special for a while.
You genuine. I thoroughly enjoyed every time I'd see, because you guys, there was no, pretense, and we're just big Jack tough guys with terrible tattoos, and that's our tag team.
Right.
Just
Yeah, we're
everybody
like
got thrown
we're like
together.
uh we're like devil worshippers. We're like big tough guys. We don't sell. And we come out, we dress in black, and we don't make facial expressions, and we don't work the crowd. Oh man, that's original. I think it'll play.
You guys got it though, and you guys, and you still get it. But I mean, it's you guys
The
understood.
package was the sum of
Mhm.
the parts was like the whole of the parts was better than the sum. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like I've still got like the gimmick and the duck and that's cool, but there's nothing that could touch like all four of us. But the main package was a lot of times was myself, Lance Lude, and Coach Mikey, and we just had something special.
and
And then
that's
when you
what
threw
Mikey.
Col- then when you threw Colby in the mix, it just made it that much better.
Yeah, Mikey did it for me too, because there's your, your bear of a manager, basically, with his belly hanging out, with the clipboard, and it was like, it was gold. It was
Yeah.
absolute gold.
The manager is much bigger than the wrestlers. When does that ever work? But he's
I
a
know.
giant child. He's a lap dog who doesn't realize how big he is. You see, like he's that puppy who wants to jump in your lap, not realizing he's a Doberman. You know, so then that's Mikey. You know, he's just a giant child. But all of it worked. Like everything went against the grain, went against tradition. It's like, oh no, you can't have a manager who's bigger than the wrestlers. And if he's that big, why would he cower down and be scared of something? It's like, well, he's a giant kid. Uh, it just, I don't know, it just worked. We just got
It
lucky and it
definitely did.
clicked. It was
It
just the
definitely did.
chemistry. You just couldn't. Even my other tag partners, like I love all my tag partners, but me and Lance just had something special. We just knew each other. We just were on the same page. We just had it.
And go into that. Go into your friendship and your relationship with Lance. He got sick, a few years back, and hearts out, because I mean, he just a bad run of luck. But talk about how your friendship, relationship, brotherhood, because this is your tag partner for years. How does that relationship evolve?
Well, I mean, like we're obviously still friends. He's
Hmm.
not wrestling much now
Hmm.
at the moment, but we're obviously still friends. We're obviously we are obviously still close.
Hmm.
We created something special together. Nobody can take that away from us. But I can't say that we always got along 100% of the time. Like we were in the car on the road together a lot. There were times we had to drive from Florida to New York. There were times we had to drive from New York to Chicago. And you know, I'm not the easiest to be around, and neither is he. So it wouldn't always, and like it wouldn't always be the best, but it was always great. Like I'm not saying we got along 100% of the time, but we're close. Like, and I couldn't have done it without him. I couldn't have done it without Coach Mikey. I couldn't have done it without Colby. I understand that this is not just a one man show, and it definitely feels weird me just doing the duck as singles most of the time. Now it is very strange. Not that I'm not adept at singles, because I even whenever we were teaming together constantly, like very regularly, they would still take weekends off. I would not. So I was
Hmm.
still doing single stuff as we were teaming, but just it just feels a little different because again, I feel like the whole package was really something special. It's like sure the gimmick works with me, but the whole package was just something that you can't quite put your finger in.
Now you mentioned traveling Florida, New York, and New York, Chicago. Any favorite travel stories with the guys in the car? And just cracking each other up, or any scary story? Anything that really sticks out in your mind of like, this was a wild trip.
I mean, well, too many to really go into, honestly, a ton, and then a lot that just pissed me off too. But like, um, I mean, there was a time we were going to team with Mike Quackenbush, who is one of my favorite wrestlers, and we got a flat tire somewhere in Virginia. We were on our way to Maryland. We ended up being a little late to the show, but it all worked out. But that's just a boring story. That's not a good story. Uh, I I mean, road rage issues when we're driving in New York, not on our part, of course, but everybody else who's just insane. Uh, Coach Mikey and I have done a lot of miles together where it was just us, and he sleeps easily. So it's always like, okay, I'm driving, Mikey sleep, and, and then he would sleep. I
I'm
drive as
so
far as I
jealous of that. I
can.
can't sleep in a
Yeah.
car. I'm so
Oh,
jealous of people like
no,
that.
no, I could sleep in a car, but I can't
Mhm.
go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like that's my issue. I have to fall asleep. But in a car, it's like I'll drive as far as I can. Might be 2 hours, might be 8 hours, might be 10 hours. But when I'm done, I need you to take over because I gotta sleep. And we did that a lot. We trying to think of some good stories, but I just feel put on the spot. One time I almost left my friend Tim at a rest stop because they were sleeping when we stopped. I got out to use the bathroom. I got back in the car, started driving down the on ramp, and White Mike wakes up to go, "Are we leaving Tim?" I look back. Tim's not there in the car anymore. So I got to back up the
That's a
on
good
ramp.
one. That's
Yeah,
a
so
good
I
one.
got to back up the on ramp, and then I just see Tim. Yeah, so I see Tim coming out of the bathroom
What the
like
hell?
shrugging and with his hands up, like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I did not know you got out." And this almost happened this past weekend too. I got out at a gas station, had little Kay Amori with me in the back seat, had Cam Jackson in the passenger seat. I go in, come back out, get in the car, put it in drive, and Cam's like, "He ain't in here." I was like, "What?" And I looked back and I was like, because I told them this story, so he understood. He's like, "Hey, he ain't here. Don't take off." Uh,
You mentioned one thing a little bit ago, and I want to touch on that. Um, your mentality as part of a tag team, as opposed to being a singles. How do you adapt your mindset?
well, I don't know. I guess I never really think about it because I've just done this so long. So much stuff is just kind of natural to me, and I'll bring that around in a second. But I don't know. I just understand in a tag team there are more moving parts, and everybody needs their time to shine. The match is not about me. No match is just about me. It's about us. And same with the tag team. And we have some people who don't understand that because they don't understand tag team wrestling, and that's fine. I will teach you. Hold on to my belt loops. Keep your mouth shut, and I'll help you. Um, but it just you have to make sure you're accounting for your time. You have to make sure you're accounting for the story that you're telling. You need to make sure everybody plays their strengths and everybody's character is showcased. But a lot of people are just them, me. Yeah, I'm cool not taking the pin. You know, just dumb, just sure, man. Like whatever best suits you, all four of us should do. Like, but we're working for the match. And I just, I don't know. There's wrestling isn't that hard to understand sometimes, but people make it much harder than it needs to be. Um, yeah, I'm sorry. What was the question? Oh, tag team wrestling. No, but tag
Tag
team
versus
wrestling,
singles, yeah.
right? But the main thing is, I see this a lot too. Remember, it's a tag team match. It's a gimmick match. What's the gimmick of the match? The tag. It's a tag
Yeah.
match. That's the gimmick of the match. So don't forget that. Don't get in there and do a 5 minute singles match and then tag out. It's like, no, and it's not just about double team moves. It's not just about hitting cool things. It's about working together as a unit. You come in, save your partner, push him out of the way, and you get kicked instead. It doesn't always have to be moves. It's just working together with a singular focus. That's how I view tag team wrestling. But I think when tag team wrestling is done right, it's awesome because you could take twice as many bumps. You got twice as many people in there. You could do all sorts of cooler stuff.
You know,
You know what I'm
weave
saying? You
different
could
things in, yeah.
exactly different like all sorts of different stuff. You're only limited by your imagination at that point. So I love tag team wrestling, especially when it's done well. I love tag team wrestling when it's done so poorly too. I love bad wrestling. I don't like
I love
mediocre
bad
wrestling.
wrestling
That
so
Yeah,
much.
I don't like mediocre wrestling. It doesn't make me feel anything. I want
Mhm.
to feel really good about it or really bad about it. And then you've got my attention.
We're
I've
the
seen
exact same.
I've seen tag team wrestling where they literally put the guy in his own corner to put heat on him, and his partner standing there like, "Oh no, what's happening? I could just reach in and tag him, but that's not the spot." It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
My
But
what I've said the last 2 years is I've seen good wrestling, I've seen bad wrestling. I want to see a hoot. I want a hoot. That's all I want. I
and
want something to just go, ah, shit. Okay, cool.
and the difference between tag wrestling and singles, you would think that oh well, tag wrestling you get a breather, which is kind of true, but also not really because it's moving at a faster pace and you got to get there. In a singles match, you could dictate the pace a little more when you get to the spots. When you get to the spot, if I'm blowed up, we could take a second before we get there. But in a tag match, no, you got to get there because you got three other people relying on you.
Interesting. I never thought of it that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's almost yeah, more taxing in some cases. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Like
you're
you, because
always
you,
doing something. Yeah.
on the surface, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. But if you're doing it right, because whenever Lance is getting beat up, I'm on the apron and I'm selling for him and I'm pounding that turnbuckle and I'm getting tired too. And then I've got to get in there and run around.
One thing you and Lance did, or the Ducks really, and you still do very, very well, is merch. You, it seems like sometime, like I think you can really pinpoint COVID. Everyone used to do merch, and now it's very few who still do merch, and you do it well. But like the number of people I can think of now who do merch well is like on one hand,
Well, I
where it
mean,
used to be everything.
whenever you just have like a plain black shirt with your name in white letters, oh, that didn't sell. Oh, it's crazy. I'm shocked. It's like, oh, they have to know who you are and like you enough to buy your shirt just to represent you. It's a boring plain T-shirt with white letters with your name. That's dumb. Our shirts, you don't have to know who we are or even like wrestling or like us to like our shirts and want to buy some of our stuff. Oh, you don't have to like wrestling at all to buy a Big Duck Energy sticker.
What gets me with you guys is the duck calls because my vice president of sales came to a show and the kid had never been to a wrestling show. He'd never been to a wrestling show, and um, the kid bought a duck call because just like his kid fell in love with you, just like oh yeah, that get a duck call, get a shirt, the whole thing, like, and they bought in right away because they're just like oh you projected and oh I get 6-year-old kid gets a duck call, the coolest thing in the world. My daughter's got them from you. My daughter's got stuff from you.
Yeah. And
It's
then when they got two kids, it's like, hey, they're 2 for 5. Yeah. But
you
that's the
get
thing.
it.
It's, yeah,
You get the merch thing.
I don't mind working hard for my money. I'm not sitting over there not engaging with the fans on my phone, acting bothered that they came up to try to give me some of their money. I just hate being at this wrestling show in front of these people who are cheering for me. It's terrible. God, why would somebody I'm miserable, but I just can't turn down the money. Right? No. So I love being there. I will work for this shirt sale. I do not mind. As I'm out there hustling, I work hard in the ring. You ever see me phone it in the ring? You won't see me phone it in at the gimmick table either.
I don't think I've ever nodded so much.
It's
Show I've
okay.
done before. You
I hope
fucking
your
get
neck
it.
is okay after this. I hope
You
your neck's
fucking
okay.
get it.
I feel
Seriously.
like I've taken over your podcast, and now
Not at all. No, you
no,
just
now
fucking
this is my
get it,
show.
man.
It's my show now. It's a podcast.
It's a
Uh,
podcast. um, I need a really good white Mike story. You are now teaming where you teamed historically, and now you're teaming recently with the infamous White Mike. Give me one good White Mike story because that man is a fountain of hilarity.
well, that's the thing. Like with White Mike, it's I've known him for 17 years now, and I think it's just been one big long story. So it's real hard to chop it up. I mean, there's been times where I remember one particular time where okay, I'll tell you one that's kind of funny. You might be the only one to find it funny. It might be boring for everybody else, but I think it's funny because it's wrestling really. But but here's a different one. There was one time we were calling a match, and his two sons were a lot younger. So one he's holding in his arms, and the other one it's like this crap show, like but the other one keeps running out of the entranceway while matches are happening and just doing Finn Balor's entrance. Just going out there, just it's like come back here, Gabriel, come back, and he's holding his son Godric. Gabriel keeps running out the curtain. We put together a match while he's got his baby in his arms. We go out there, we have the match. At one point, I'm beating him up, and like because it's pretty tough, Rob Killjoy, so I was normally heel everywhere. Before I got addicted to the merch sales, and but I remember having him in a hold at one point, and uh, Gabriel grabbed a chair. Gabriel was probably like I don't know, like 4, maybe 4 or 5 at the time. But he goes and grabs a chair and is trying to get in the ring, and White Mike's in a hold, going, "No, no, no, get him back, get him back." You know, because he tried to get a chair and get in there to hit me with the chair. So I think that's kind of
That's
amusing, but it's
great. A
yeah,
4-year-old kid trying to hit you with a chair.
right.
That's heat, brother.
But
That's heat.
and I do remember this. White Mike, we always have issues like calling matches. Not so much anymore, but it used to just be Mike focus, White Mike, please, because we'll do this thing where, for example, and this still happens sometimes. We'll be working somebody who's not very experienced, so I need to detail this and make them feel comfortable. I need to make them feel confident that they can get through this step being in their head about it. So I'm trying to be easy. And White Mike will be making jokes, telling them to do these moves that are not going to happen. That's not going to be done. And I'm like, Mike, please stop. You are making her nervous. You know, please stop. You're not helping. You're getting in her head, and she's not already forgetting what we're actually going to do. And now you're throwing stuff at, just always stuff like that. And then if the match goes poorly, and then I'm like mad. It's like I told you to stop.
He
Um,
very much has big kid energy too.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, he does. Um, but there would always be like issues like during matches or something where it's just Mike, what are you doing there? Mike, you were early there. Mike, you were late there. Please listen. Please pay attention. Again, he's a lot better now. We've known each other a lot for years. But I remember one in particular time. It was our first time working for Evolve. We had two shows that day. We in Atlanta. So we were on the earlier show that we had Evolve that night. Well, we wrestled the gymnastics on the earlier show. And I remember at one point there was supposed to be something where Mike goes up to the top rope and I was gonna like stop him as he came down or something like that, like come off the accident, I was gonna stop him. But at one point he climbs the top rope and it's like way early. And I'm in there with Tim, like while we're doing something. And he's trying to communicate, Mike, get down, Mike, get down. And I just pulled Tim over to like the other side of the ring. I was like, no, just ignore him. He'll get it. And eventually Mike is just standing up on the top rope, then just slowly climbs down. He's like, don't worry, people, I got a plan. It was so stupid. But that's the one that jumps to my mind is him just standing on the top rope. I'm like, just ignore him. He'll catch on.
He'll
uh,
eventually get it.
right. Not to bury White Mike on this or anything. I just think it's amusing, but he'll tell you the same. Um,
One thing you kind of
but
got into a little bit here is planning on a match. One thing I really appreciate you, maybe more than anyone on the independent scene, is the way you think a couple steps ahead. Um, yeah, the running joke about Larry Bird was that he saw three passes ahead. Of what was
well,
what was happening.
I don't watch hockey, so I'm
You know
sorry.
what? Talking fair, 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 fair. Well, you see three moves ahead. I can tell your brain is working. Okay, this leads to this, leads to this, leads to this. Did that evolve? Were you always like that? Talk about how your brain views a sequence in wrestling as opposed to just a move.
Well, it has evolved. It has gotten a lot better over the years. And then there's times where, like I said, every 3 years, I feel like I'm getting it. There's times like I'll watch old matches back. I'll be like, okay, I like what we were trying to do there, but it didn't come off as clean as I do it now, or something like
Mhm.
that. It's just getting better. That's just how that goes. But normally, the way that I put a match together, and I don't know if this is normal or not. This is just how I do it. I'm very visual. Like sometimes I'll show up with ideas, but a lot of times, like for example, my match with Rico last week, I got there at 6:45. Show started at 7:30. We were first match. I need to set up my merch. I need to get dressed. Traffic was just hell all day. We literally got to call that match maybe once, maybe twice. But I'm just very visual when I'm calling it, so I'll start out somewhere, and I just see it in my head where it could logically go,
Mhm.
and then I'm just following that, and I'm just following that path. And it's like, okay, hey, maybe this happens here. Ooh, okay, maybe I hurt my hand when I do that. Okay, maybe that could come into play later. And then I'll bring it back around later, like, oh, hey, I can do this. And that brings back the story from earlier, and it's experience. It's that I've done this so consistently forever. And I don't just mean like, oh, I was working every Saturday. No, they're like, once I built it up, I was working uh Wednesday in Ohio, Thursday in Indiana, Friday somewhere else, Saturday Florida, Sunday wherever. You know what I'm saying? It was just all over the place and just consistent all the time to where I got good at this. And now I just see how it should flow. So if I need to go out there and call it in the ring, I'm totally capable of that. without the whole, hey, let's go call it in the ring like most of these guys around here do, where it's just let's go lay in a chin lock and be boring and not give any action to the fans. A lot of times people say, let's go call it in the ring. It means they're lazy. They don't like to remember spots or like to think about it or like to try hard. And again, not that I'm opposed to calling in the ring, but if you say you want to call it in the ring, you have to be capable of doing that. And that means moving also. It doesn't mean, hey, let's go out here, get a chin lock. Okay, give me a tackle, go back to the chin lock. Okay, give me a tackle cover, go back to the chin lock. All right, we gave them enough. Let's go home. That doesn't count to me. Anybody could do that. If we want to call it in the ring, I could bore you in the ring, no problem. But the point is, we're supposed to excite these fans who paid their money and spent their time, which is important. But again, nobody thinks about that. It's wild to me. They just, and I'm talking about these old vets around here a lot too. They really just, oh yeah, we just went out there and oh, you're going over your spots. Oh, I can't believe you're talking over a match. Oh, I can't. Oh, you're actually. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, like I've never heard any guitar player practice playing the guitar. It's crazy. They just did it. It's wild. They didn't have a set list or anything for that concert. They just went. I can't believe that they did it so well. They just pulled it off so well without a plan at all. Without a I'm going to put my address in the GPS, and there's different routes to get there, but we got to get to that address.
Mhm. Yeah. And you whether you call it in the ring or you call it backstage or whatever, you're always entertaining, and that
Well,
is
I like a mixture. I like
yeah.
bullet points. I like open space to play with something if we happen to find something to play
Mhm.
with. Like if, oh, hey, the crowd's really reacting to this. Let's give them a little more of this. Hey, they're kind of doing this. Let's go this way. And we'll come back to where we're headed. We're gonna get back on route. Yeah. But that's how I view it. Like I like a little mixture of both. We need to have a game plan because again, I've went out and called it in the ring before, and then it's like, oh, sorry, man, I thought you knew what tackle drop down was. Guess we should have talked more in the back because you're supposed to be trained. But don't take that. That's a luxury. I tell my kids and my students all the time, never underestimate how stupid your opponent could be because you're going to wrestle somebody who they might be really good, but not have a grasp on this one phrase or what this one move is, even though they've probably seen it a bunch of times and maybe they call it something different. You never know what you're dealing with. So I don't be afraid to be detailed. If you get annoyed with me and think I'm over explaining something to you, that's fine. Be annoyed with me. I don't. You're allowed to feel that way. I'm not. I've got enough friends I already don't like. So I'm not. I'm not here to try to please you. I'm trying to have a good match, and then you'll like me afterwards. But I'd rather you be annoyed with me and the match go well than we be friends and the match is shit. And it's like, oh well, at least we're friends.
Now you mentioned your kids, and I feel like I've been at Rob Killjoy Wrestling School for the last hour because I'm just learning so much from you here.
Oh, I
How,
do overwhelm them as well. So
but no, no,
I
no,
apply,
I
I
don't mean
apply
over.
my personality.
No,
I apply my personality in a thick paste, and then I just talk a lot. I'm sorry. I hope there's some
no, no,
semblance
no,
of
no,
an
no. This
answer.
is I'm gleaning things that I'm not a wrestler, but this has been so educational on how you go into this.
Oh,
No,
see,
this has been fantastic.
see, I think
But
I'm terrible. I just try to tell you what I know, and whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. After 20 years, I've earned an opinion. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if I'm wrong. All I know is there's a reason I feel this way.
now I guess my question is, how is teacher Rob different than wrestler Rob? How is trainer Rob different? What are the main things? I mean, you touched on a lot of the main things you hope and you learned and things like that. But how do you adapt your personality to trainer and teacher?
Oh, same,
Same.
same
Okay.
thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get
like
that.
I'm not. I don't take it easy on them. I'm very straight up with them, and I don't bullshit them. Just that's just not who I am. It's like if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the answer, or at least my best guess at an answer. Or if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. But I'm not going to bullshit you. And if it hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, but that's what you need to hear. That's just what happens sometimes. I'm not trying to be mean. I don't. My goal is not to hurt your feelings. But sometimes it's like I'm not going to sugarcoat what I'm telling you because that's not going to make you better. A lot of times, like I've literally gotten like bitched at somebody after a match so hard that they cried. But then we wrestled again the next week and they did a lot better because they understood. And it wasn't like I was trying to make them cry. They just didn't like what I had to say. But it's not my job. And I've told my students this too. It's not my job to make wrestling easier for you. My job is to make wrestling easier for you. It's
I,
not to make it's not to make oh I like to make wrestling easier so you could do it. It's to make you so good at wrestling that it's easier for you.
that makes
It's
sense.
not about getting it
Total
right.
sense.
It's about doing it so many times that you can't get it wrong. And
It's
that's how I feel about it. I put in work and I just expect you to do the same. And I don't ask for too much. Like we do warm ups in class and stuff, and somebody will be like, "Oh, 100 squats too much." I'm like, "You have no idea what a WWE tryout asks of you."
oh, I'm
I'm
sure.
just I'm just making sure that you're doing something, some sort of calisthenics at least once a week. But I would tell you guys to do this at home, but that doesn't mean you're going to. So, but I promise you, you're going to do it when you're here with me. And that's how it goes. That's part of this. This isn't just getting in the ring and wrestling. You're going to get tired, so you need to be conditioned. You want to pick me up over your head and drop me safely whenever you're tired and can't even get on your own feet. No, that's
Not
not
gonna happen.
that's
Yeah.
not going to work. So you have to have some sort of conditioning. You have to be in ring shape. I'm not saying, hey, go to the gym twice a day. You should go to the gym. I force myself to go to the gym and I hate it. No matter how often I do it, it doesn't grow on me. I don't grow to like it. I hate lifting heavy things for no reason, but it's necessary. You know, I hate running and getting on the treadmill and stuff,
That's the worst.
but I have to do it. When I go work out in a ring, that's no problem at all. I love being in a ring. So I'll get in there, I'll tire myself out, run the ropes, flip around, roll around. Not an issue. But that's not always the case. I'm able to do that.
You got to
But
do A to get to B.
correct. Like
Yeah.
this is all part of it. You know, it's like no, you. I'm not saying like, hey, everybody's got to have a $10,000 body or whatever. You know, you need to look like a wrestler. No, because wrestlers should come in all different shapes and sizes, different characters, whatever. But regardless of your look, you should be able to go. You should be able to work. You should be able to like get
Function.
through a match
Mhm.
without looking like you're dying.
You mentioned Evolve. One thing I was really proud of for you was STI. Getting into STI. I could tell that meant a lot to you.
It did
Um,
absolutely,
what are some of the highlights of what we'll kind of close on? You know, what are the high points of this 20-year adventure?
man. Like I've part of what keeps me humble and part of what keeps my passion going is that all I ever want to do is wrestle. So I achieved my dream, my first match. Everything after that's just been icing on the cake.
Love it.
I'm not, oh well, F this show because they're not using me right, or oh they owe me this or whatever. It's like, nah, man, I just want to go wrestle. You know, I wrestle people who are worse than me and put them over all the time. That's not an issue. You know, like I do not care about winning or losing. I could lose better than I could win. I promise you that. But I I'm sorry. What was the question?
Highlights. What are some of
Oh, okay.
your favorite
Um,
moments? Yeah.
okay. Well, I would say validation would be the biggest highlight. Whenever I get to wrestle some of the best wrestlers in the world, Jay Lethal, Eric Young, Cedric Alexander, guys like that, Christopher Daniels, who then tell me that like they love working with me. That when Crazy Steve pulls me aside after working with me and tells me, "Man, me and Eric Young were just talking about you last week and how good you were," and I think I'm awful. I think I just try real hard. Like so I'm not perfect, but I'll strive for it and I'll get that'll make me better. But to hear them say that, that's just awesome. You know, that Cedric Alexander loved wrestling me and would request wrestling me. Like we've done all sorts of matches for him with WWE. We had a 2 out of 3 falls match. We did a ladder match. We wrestled all over the place. But
So people you respect respecting you back.
correct.
That's a highlight.
Some
Yeah.
some of the best wrestlers in the world. You know, Private Party loves working with me. You know, that stuff's crazy. The fact that I've got to wrestle for CZW, for Evolve, for FIP, some of these shows that like I started getting DVDs up before I started or right when I started professionally wrestling. You know, just getting to wrestle a place like that, getting to do extra work for AEW, and then knowing 90% of the locker room, everybody being happy to see me there. It's great. And now I feel weird because it feels like I'm just putting myself over a lot, but I am on your podcast, and that's what I'm supposed
Mhm.
to do, right?
Yeah, I'll
Uh,
put you over if you don't.
uh,
So yeah.
but like Lucky Ali, I'm sorry, Saquon Sugars now, and Jay Malachi or Javon Evans telling me
Mhm.
that they wouldn't be where they were if it wasn't for me. Yeah, that's crazy to me. You know what I mean? It's just wild. Just getting to see some of the stuff I've seen and do some of the things I've done. If you have told me when I first started, I would make $100 wrestling for a match, for one match, I'd be like, what? It's now that's not even.
It's great. That's great.
Yeah,
You're living. You're literally living your dream, and that's
exactly,
incredible.
exactly. So everything else is just icing. So that's what keeps me humble. That's what keeps me passionate.
Do you see this going until you can't go anymore,
Yeah,
or
man.
is there an end date?
Oh, I'm the next Ricky Morton. Yeah,
Love it.
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. Like I've
Love
got
it.
no end in sight.
Love it. That's
Like
fantastic.
I don't plan to stop. I love wrestling. Now, if I get in there where I'm embarrassing myself or something, of course, but I don't think I'm there yet. I mean, no more than usual, anyways.
No,
So
you're doing great. You're doing. I saw you Friday night. You're doing great.
I try.
You're still killing it. So we'll close this up a little bit here. If people want to book you, if people want to get in touch with you, if people want to train at your school, how can people glean some of what we gleaned now from Rob Killjoy?
All right. Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. Give me an opportunity to plug. Well, you can follow me and find me on Twitter at I'm Rob Killjoy, or look me up Rob Killjoy on Facebook. It'll connect you to my real page. But the school that it's ran by JD Drake and myself, it's in Chester, South Carolina, 110 Helen Street. Look it up. It's Action Packed Academy. And I train on Wednesdays. His days vary depending on when he has to do TV and not. But there's normally 2 classes a week. We're cheaper than most schools because I wish we could dedicate more time to it. But there's only so much
You're busy.
time that I have
Hmm.
because there's just not enough hours in the day when it comes to my schedule. Um, but yes, Action Packed Academy, definitely check that out. If you want to book me, please contact me Twitter, Facebook, as I said, at I'm Rob Killjoy or Rob Killjoy. You could email me at book Rob Killjoy and
At Gmail.
yep, at
Okay.
Gmail.
Hmm.
Yep. And I don't have an Instagram or anything, so I probably should, but I don't have a TikTok or nothing. It was hard to get me to get a Twitter, but yeah, gotta have it for wrestling.
Gotta
I
have it
probably
for
will need those things, especially if Twitter burns down in a couple weeks. So uh,
hopefully it won't.
no,
Rob, it's been a
if it does, there are worse things that could happen, right?
there are worse. We'll have to occupy our time somewhere else,
Yeah.
but we'll have to go to more wrestling, frankly.
Oh no, I could deal with that.
Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure. You are an utter joy.
You don't have to lie to me. I'm a killjoy.
No, dude, we've been friends. We've
See
been
what I
friends
did?
for years, man. You've always been a joy to be around and entertaining, and you get it, and you got it, and you get it, and that's really important because a lot of people don't. There's a lot in that brain that I wish more people knew. So
Well,
thank
no,
you
well, I
for
appreciate that. No,
sharing so much.
and I appreciate you because I mean, it's always a pleasure to see you at shows. I enjoy you because you're a fan who's in it to be a fan. You enjoy wrestling. You're not here to try to prove something or like, oh, hey, I'm going to go be smarter than these wrestlers or anything like that. You're there just to enjoy and to encourage, and that you wrestling brings you joy, and I could tell, and it brings me joy. So real recognize real, as they say.
Well, wrestling is our happy place, and
There it is.
just thanks again, my friend. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, but Rob Killjoy, once again, thank you.
Okay, I was very funny. I was very entertaining. You had a
You're great.
great time, and you can't wait to have me back.
I can't. Thanks, Rob. We'll hit a
Thank you.
showdown.
Quack quack. Killjoy.